I've got a bit of a different video for you today, but I think it's a good one. This video is about how a $200,000 Lego dispute became a business disaster. Specifically, I want to cover what the Bricks and Minifig disaster reveals about business, leadership, and character. So, I don't watch much TV anymore, and I'm guessing a lot of you don't either. These days, I watch YouTube, and as scary as it is sometimes, the algorithm usually serves up something I like. A few weeks ago, YouTube kept recommending me this one video. It showed this goofy looking guy who appeared to be stealing Legos, and the title was something like, "I tracked down the person who stole $200,000 of Legos." Anyway, I clicked on the video and I was immediately drawn in. And before I knew it, I was completely down the rabbit hole. One video turned into 2, then 10, and then came the interviews, the court filings, the allegations, the responses. And before I knew it, I realized this wasn't a Lego story anymore. It was a business and life lesson story. If you're not familiar with it, the short version is this. A family consigned an extremely valuable Lego Star Wars collection through a Bricks and Minifigs store. Everything was going great. Then the store's ownership suddenly changed. The relationship broke down. Questions were raised about the inventory, lawsuits followed, police became involved. A YouTuber, Reckless Ben, began documenting the situation publicly on YouTube. And what started as a dispute over Legos turned into a controversy that spread fast and wide across the internet. I'll link Reckless Ben's full video in the comments. Full disclosure, I've been a Lego Star Wars fan for years. I've spent thousands of dollars on Legos, and I've probably got more plastic starships than any grown man probably needs. So naturally, the story grabbed my attention. But the more I watched, the less interested I became in the Legos themselves. What fascinated me was everything else. The leadership decisions, the public relations failures, the risk management mistakes, the questions surrounding the handling of the consignment inventory, the role of the police. By the way, I think they need to be investigated. The impact on franchise owners who suddenly found themselves caught in the middle of a national controversy. And perhaps most importantly, how a problem that should have easily been fixable early on appeared to get bigger and bigger because corporate big shots kept doubling down. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to determine guilt or innocence. There are allegations in the story that are disputed, there are facts that remain contested, and the legal issues are for the courts to decide. But I'm an accountant. I've spent nearly 30 years helping businesses. I've seen good businesses fail. I've seen bad businesses thrive. I've seen owners destroy companies that they spent decades building. And I've seen small problems become massive disasters simply because nobody was willing to admit a mistake. So today, I want to talk about the lessons hidden inside this train wreck of a story. Because whether you're a business owner, a franchisee, an investor, a collector, or just somebody trying to make good decisions in life, there are some very powerful lessons here. And the first one may be the most important one of all. Lesson 1, your reputation is an asset. By the way, my name is Noel Lorenzana. I'm an accountant for many years, and I like to think I have a good reputation. At least that's what I strive for. And I strongly believe that your reputation is your number one asset. If you take nothing else away from this video, take away that. For many businesses, their reputation is their most valuable asset. And the funny thing is, you won't find it on any financial document. As accountants, we track the financial numbers, cash, inventory, equipment, things like that. But some of the most valuable things a company owns never shows up anywhere in the financials, like trust, goodwill, reputation, credibility. Those things are real and they're incredibly valuable. Think about it. Trust has real economic value. You won't find it on a balance sheet, but it's extremely valuable. Trust is why customers come back. It's why they recommend you to their friends and family. It's why they give you the benefit of the doubt when something goes wrong. And in business, that's worth a lot. And every business eventually makes mistakes. The question isn't whether you'll make a mistake, it's about how you'll handle it. And as I've watched this Bricks and Minifigs situation unfold, what stands out to me isn't necessarily the original dispute, it's the damage being done to the brand itself. Whether you agree with corporate leadership or reckless Ben, the reality is that a lot of people have lost trust. And once trust starts disappearing, the financial consequences inevitably follow. As a business owner, that's what would concern me. Not necessarily the criticism, but the loss of trust. Because once people stop believing in a brand, getting that trust back is incredibly difficult. There's an old saying that I like: trust is earned in droplets and lost in buckets. That's exactly what we're watching here. Years of reputation can be damaged in a matter of days. I've seen this play out before with businesses, organizations, even individuals. It takes a long time to build a good name, and it can be damaged surprisingly fast. Which brings me to another important point. Reputation isn't just a business lesson, it's a life lesson. In Proverbs, it says something like, "A good reputation is worth more than silver and gold." Think about that. A good name, more valuable than silver and gold. As somebody who talks about gold and silver quite a bit on this channel, that's a pretty powerful statement. Because once a reputation is damaged, it can take years to repair, and sometimes it never fully recovers, which leads directly into the second lesson. Lesson 2, doing what's right matters more than being right. One thing that keeps coming to mind as I watch this whole thing unfold is that even if Bricks and Minifig corporate is right, what if they're still wrong? Now, before you jump into the comments, hear me out. Let's assume for a second that they're legally in the right. Let's assume their attorneys are right. Let's assume every position they've taken is technically correct. If so, then why does the situation just seem to keep getting worse and worse for them? And let me tell you, I've seen this before. A business owner gets into a dispute, maybe with a customer, and they become completely focused on proving they're right and overlook doing what's right. The problem is they become so focused on winning the argument that they forget what they're actually trying to accomplish. If you're a business owner, your goal isn't to win arguments. Your goal is to solve problems and serve your customers. Your goal is to protect your business, protect the brand, and keep customers trusting you. As I watch this Bricks and Minifigs situation unfold, I keep coming back to the same question. If they believe their damage control strategy is working, why does everything seem to be getting worse for them? At some point, every leader has to stop asking, "Am I right?" and start asking, "Is this working?" Because those are two very different questions. And that's what this whole lesson comes down to. Doing what's right matters more than being right. Because if you're winning the argument, but losing public trust, what have you actually won? And that brings me to what I think is the biggest lesson in this entire story. Lesson 3, pride only hurts, it never helps. I think this may be the most important lesson in this entire story. And oddly enough, it reminds me of a scene from Pulp Fiction. There's a scene where Marcellus Wallace is paying Butch tens of thousands of dollars to throw a fight and to go down in the 5th round. And Marcellus says something that's always stuck with me. He says,
"Night of the fight, you may feel a slight sting. That's pride fucking with you. Fuck pride. Pride only hurts. It never helps."
Now, that's obviously an extreme example. I'm not saying Butch should have thrown the fight. I probably would have. The point is that pride has a way of getting us stuck. We dig in our heels, we defend our positions, we double down. And before we know it, we're spending more time, money, and energy defending the decision rather than questioning whether it was the right one to begin with. And we've all fallen into that trap. The funny thing about pride is that it doesn't feel like you're being prideful. Usually it feels like you're just trying to be right. It feels like you're standing on principles. It feels like you're simply defending your position. And then one day you realize you've become so committed to being right that you've stopped asking whether you're actually doing what's right. And that's when pride gets dangerous. As I watched this story unfold, there were a few moments where somebody could have hit the pause button, taken a step back, brought in some independent people, and figured out what actually happened and try to resolve it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's more going on behind the scenes than any of us know, but from the outside looking in, it feels like everybody just dug in deeper. And once people start digging in, it's amazing how quickly a small problem can become a much bigger problem. The older I get, the more I think Marcellus Wallace was right. Pride only hurts. It never helps. And maybe that's the lesson here. Lesson 4. Be careful who you get into business with. You know who I really feel sorry for as I watch the story unravel? It's the Bricks and Minifigs franchise owners. A lot of those are independently owned and operated. A lot of those people invested a lot of time and money into their stores. And now they're caught in the middle of a controversy that they did not create. Because one of the biggest lessons here has nothing to do with Legos. It's this: be careful who you go into business with. When people buy into a franchise, they spend a lot of time looking at the numbers, revenue projections, profit margins, startup costs. Yes, they're all very important. But here's the question I don't think enough people ask. What kind of person is leading the company? Maybe that's the real lesson here. Be careful who you get into business with, because sooner or later, their decisions become your decisions, like it or not. I have no idea what conversations are happening behind the scenes at Bricks and Minifigs corporate right now, but if I were a franchise owner, I'd probably be asking some tough questions. Is corporate helping me or hurting me right now? Are they protecting the brand or damaging the brand? Because whether it's fair or not, every local store is attached to the name on the sign, and that's the risk. You can do everything right locally and still suffer from decisions made somewhere else. So be careful who you go into business with and who you associate with for that matter. Lesson 5. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Another thing as I watched the story unfold, I wondered to myself, why did the family agree to handing over all the Legos to consign at one time? I mean, they could have done it in batches. Now, before anybody misunderstands me, that's not a criticism of the family at all. I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for them. What I'm talking about is risk management. Because one of the things I've learned over the years is that oftentimes risk needs to be managed. It's okay to trust people, and you should trust people. But as I understand it, this was an incredibly valuable Star Wars collection, valued by some accounts at over $200,000. As I watched the videos, I kept asking myself, if this were me, would I have moved the entire collection all at once? Probably not. Maybe 10 or 20 lots. Not because I expected something bad to happen, but because I never want one decision to expose me to that much risk. I know hindsight is 20/20, but that's just how I think about things. It's like the concept of diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put yourself in a position where one mistake can ruin everything for you. You know, after following the story for weeks, I think I've finally figured out what bothers me most about it. It's not the Legos, it's not even the money, it's the character questions that keep coming up. Because a crisis has a way of revealing people's true nature. When things are going well, it's easy to look like a good person. It's easy to look patient, humble, to say the right things. The real test when things go sideways, when people are criticizing you, when you're under pressure, when you have a chance to admit a mistake or have the chance to do the right thing. That's where I believe character shows up. Another thing I've learned over the years is that integrity is incredibly powerful. Earl Nightingale said it best. The secret to success is integrity. Everything else is commentary. And the older I get, the more I know that's true. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. You have to look in the mirror. You have to live with your decisions. Money comes and goes. Businesses, friends, they come and go. But character, that stays with you. Anyway, those are some of the lessons I've taken away from spending way too much time following the Bricks and Minifigs disaster. How about you? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. And if you like this type of content, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my channel members and Patreon supporters. I'm eternally grateful. And as always, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.